Hello friends, welcome to Vidya Institute. Today we will learn how to use aggregate functions in SOQL query. So first of all, let's log in to our org, clicking on login. Then we will go to the developer console so that we can write our SOQL query. So this is the gear icon. From here, we will click on developer console, opening developer console. Now we have to write our SOQL query. So first of all, we will go to the file, then clicking on open and selecting the object whose record we want through the query. So clicking on object and let me select account object. So clicking on account. So now we have multiple fields. So let me select the field of name, billing state, and number of employees to show you how to use aggregate functions. Let me choose billing country as well and ID. Clicking on query, you will get our SOQL query here. And on executing it, you will get the required records of the account object with these particular fields: name, billing state, number of employees, country, and ID. So now let me tell you what is aggregate function. So aggregate functions are used. Suppose I want a, a maximum number of employees or minimum number of employees of all the records of account object. So how will we proceed? We will use a thing called aggregate function. So aggregate function perform a sort of calculations on our records and return a single value as a output. So let me tell you. So suppose I want to know what are the total number of employees after counting the number of employees in each and every record. So we will use an aggregate function called sum and taking the number of employees field in the bracket. So this is the aggregate function we have used here, which is sum. Also, we have other aggregate function as well like max, min. So if we use maximum here, then we will get the number of maximum number of employees. Suppose this is the record which have maximum number of employees, so we will get this record as output. Similarly, minimum, as I have told you, and there is also one more aggregate function called count. So let me use count function in ID to be more clear. So count, what count does is count gives a counting of the total number of IDs. So these are the IDs. So it will give a counting. That is, there are 17 rows as it is seen here. So it will give a count of IDs, which is 17 here. And also let me tell you that as we have used aggregate functions here, so we have to keep it in mind that whenever we use aggregate function in our SOQL query, then we have to make sure that all the other fields like we have billing country, billing state, and name, we have to make sure that either we have to use aggregate function in all the other fields or group the other fields. Like we have to do group by all the remaining fields where aggregate functions are not used. So group by name and billing state. And let me use another aggregate function, one more aggregate function in billing country as well, which is to tell that how many distinct countries are there. So, which is called as count distinct. This is another aggregate function. So now you can see all the remaining fields which are not aggregated, like name field, billing state, both of them are grouped because it's compulsory either to aggregate all the functions or group the other fields, right? So let me run this. So here you can see that aggregate functions are performed and we are getting the counting of the IDs and the counting of the distinct countries and the number of employees as well. So now let me remove this grouping part because on grouping by name and billing state, we are getting this data in this form. So to be more clear, let me do one more thing. Remove the grouping part. And as I have removed the grouping part, then I have to compulsory remove these fields, the name field and billing state field. Otherwise, it will give an error. Let me show you the error. It's showing the error that field must be grouped or aggregated. As I have told you that either you have to aggregate the fields, all the fields, or you have to group the remaining fields. So removing this name and billing state field. you will see what the aggregate function has done. Now here you can see the sum of the number of employees of all the records of the account object. So this is the total sum. This is the distinct countries. That means all the countries with a distinct name in our records. So let me be very clear in this distinct part. If we have two countries, I want to tell you basically that this is not case sensitive. If we have two countries, for example, India, and in one record it's written I in capital and in the other I in the small letter. So it will consider it as a different record, not as the same record, because it is not case sensitive. So to be a different, to be distinct keyword, to be measuring a different record, a different country, the country name should be different. Its spelling should be different. So this is the case. And also let me tell you that we can't use the where clause here. We have to use a having clause to filter the records whenever we use aggregate functions in our SOQL query. Also, I am sharing you my LinkedIn profile link. You can follow me on LinkedIn as well. You can search by Anirudh Gargs simply on LinkedIn, or you can go to this URL. So thanks a lot.